try to run down here. Come on, let me see you. Come on, Jehovah, say it.
Jehovah, you
Say it.
I trust
In you.
in you.
Say it, y'all.
Oh Lord, Jehovah, you
I trust. Say it.
I
Tell
trust
me how to do it, y'all.
in you.
I believe. Say it. Say it.
I believe you. I trust
Come on.
in you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh Lord, Jehovah, you
Where y'all at? Come on. Come on.
I trust in you.
I believe. Say it.
I believe
You are the God of
miracles.
You are the God of wonder.
You are the God of wonder.
You are the God of
You
power.
are the God of power.
I believe. Say it.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I
I
Say it, y'all.
believe.
Come on. Let your feet get heavy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you and welcome to The Village right here on 92.1 GD Radio on the FM dial, on Radio Jamaica. We're on Gospel JA. We're on Facebook at Roderick F. Daly, Andre Doman, The Village Talk Show, and we're still waiting on John Sampson to be aligned there. Let me just push him out there. The Village Talk Show is dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education, helping each one of us realizing our dreams at any point, at any age, starting from today. What are you doing to be successful? Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Sampson. How are you, sir?
I am blessed, Mr. Daly. Shout out to Sophia, our producer, Andre, our producer, our co-host, Dr. Bryant, and of course to you, Mr. Daly. And just want to say welcome to our villagers. But villagers, I got something on my mind, and that something on my mind today is...
Wait. You didn't even tell me before you started out. Guy, what's on your mind? What's on
Man,
your mind? Let's start it off good.
You know what's on my mind. First of all, a couple of things. This whole issue with the vaccine and the mandates, and how selfish people are, and the impact that their decisions can have on the whole. That's one. The second thing is the Democratic Party has in Washington, they have no backbone whatsoever. That's why, the Republicans always seem to govern much better than the Democrats govern. And the last thing, if we are not careful, the economic debt that we are dealing with at this point in time, if we don't pass this infrastructure bill to plug in additional monies into our society, we're going to take a serious hit. And I think the last thing is, what the heck is going on with the shootings of these young men at these schools? Yesterday, a kid was shot and killed, 16 years old, one in East New York. What's going on in our communities that we just can't get it together?
And I love everything that you're talking about, because there's always a fight between the Democrats and Republicans, right? And you and I are in agreement that we're both Democrats, but the Democrats are always trying to please the Republicans. and they're not getting things done. And if they just had some kind of agreement right now to stop Congress, so that they can, so that, what is it called when they block
And the whole issue with the debt ceiling, to make sure that they passed. I don't know if it's so they can continue the running of the government for another couple of months.
Because if there's no Congress, they don't get paid, and
exactly,
and so they need their paychecks. And so you're right. The infrastructure bill is a problem. America needs some fixing up, right? It does. America, the roads, this, that, a lot of things in it, the bridges, all those things, and that's economic growth for the average American. While the Democrats and Republicans are busy fighting, the average American is you go into school to become a civil engineer.
And you're right. We're suffering. They should, if they can't pass this legislation, they should not get paid.
No,
they should not get paid.
Absolutely not. I agree with you. It is absurd how we're suffering because of their stupidity. We're suffering because of them, and it's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's a government thing. And a lot of times, people like to take sides and say, "I'm a Democrat, it's a Republican," or "I'm a Republican." Or vice versa. I don't remember.
Or I'm an independent. But the bottom line is, let's get something done. Ain't nothing getting done. I mean, villagers. I mean, it's just.
The villagers out there need to reach out to their local Congress people and start, having them know that the reality of the situation is that the average American is suffering, right? And the average bill payer is suffering, and with all the different things that are going on, and so those things we need to look at them and say, what is it that we can and cannot do? And that's, to me, is a problem.
That is, Roger, that is truly the problem. We continue to suffer without actual adequate representation. And sitting on this side, you just see. I mean, it's so profound now. It's ridiculous. And people want to talk about, what what happened in Afghanistan. It was an unfortunate situation, but I respect the president because he made a decision and he stuck to it. The trademark of
the Republicans' responsibility is to push back and say, what the heck is he doing? You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. When Trump was doing all that, when Trump thought about even inviting the Taliban to Camp David, you didn't hear a word. You didn't hear one word that they said. But irrespective of that, when you look at a leader, a good leader has the ability to say no. When it's very convenient to say yes, but sometimes you have to stick to the principles that benefit for the whole. And I say that to say this whole incident with the whole things with the vaccine mandates that have been implemented in hospitals, schools. Teachers have up until tomorrow in New York City to get vaccinated, or they can no longer come to work. And I was listening to a show on Sunday, and there was a doctor from New Jersey, and hopefully we're going to try to get her on the show. She talked about, we have this perception, we have this sense of individuality. It's about us. But this virus is not about us and our individual decisions. It's about collective whole, the way so many lives have been claimed by this virus. Everybody's pushing back on getting the vaccine. You hear so many horror stories. You hear so many stories on what's up, whatever. I mean, the internet is reckless. That's why I'm glad Congress finally, had this hearing, Mark Zuckerberg, and they talked about this Instagram, the negative impact Instagram has on our young children. This is the media that's being controlled by Facebook,
by Instagram, by Twitter.
What goes on is permeated
Uh-huh.
our communities, our kids. I mean, we're so warped because we lack the discretion that's needed to determine what is right and what is wrong.
So I got a article. I don't know if I had sent it to Andre for him to put into our conversation about the vice president of Pfizer that's an anti-vaxxer, right? And how everybody on Facebook is like, oh, not even the vice president of Pfizer is taking the vaccine, and then how he's hitting off against the vaccine, and then you find out that the information that he was given was so false, right? Yeah, those are factual information.
But they run with it because it fits they run with it because it
right.
supports
So
their
if
narrative.
you're anti-vaxxer, you're like you are pushing this guy on this like I'm yes I am. I took the vaccine. I'm good. I had my reluctance, but I took it, right? 9-10 months later, I'm fine. I don't have an issue. I don't know what 5 years from now is going to bring, right? But at the same time, I don't know what COVID is going to bring. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times people check, and then we brought up the stat last week, and we showed people who said, listen, when we're growing up, especially in the West Indies, I used Jamaica last week. I don't know if we want to pull up another country to this week, Andre, right? But when we do that, in 1960, when we didn't have good medicine, the life expectancy rate between now and then, right, is almost a 10-year difference with modern medicine. So, and there was a lot of kick out against the vaccines that they were given for polio, measles, mumps, and rubella. But people, right? So people took them and they were fine. So at the end of the day, I don't mind people saying they're not taking the vaccine, but I mind on both sides of the aisle, not just the anti-vaxxers or the vaxxers, but I want factual information. Don't spread false propaganda, right? Or lies to prove your point. And then because you are so interested in hanging on to your point, John, that you don't want to hear anything. Now you oh no, they made it up. Everything is made up. It's a lie if you 10 people, I always bring up the story about my friend, right? Where I said to my friend that this particular school is not a great school. And she argued the whole point. I said, listen, if only 16% of your students are graduating with this particular degree, right? If only 16% is, how are you going to label this school as a good school? Oh, but I have a lot of friends who went to the school and graduated, but I didn't say people didn't graduate. So don't look at information that are factual and then look at it and say, well, it's a lie. Well, you know what I'm saying? And I think people naturally, especially people of color, are naturally fearful of the system. For whatever, whether it's slavery, whether it's economic disenfranchisement, whether it's the Jim Crow, whatever the reasons are, John.
Right.
Naturally, blacks and Latinos and black and brown people are naturally cowardice of certain behavior. Don't know why.
Dr.
Brian, welcome.
Welcome to the village.
Good evening. How are you guys?
It's always a blessing to see
we're
the
hyped
doctor
up.
in the house.
With that mellow voice, like, I am the calm one.
Absolutely.
Give me a break, Doc. Get out of here. Let's just get into this. And this,
Doc, you want some of this? Wait, where's the camera? Doc, you want some of this?
I don't know what that is.
I'm just saying, do you want some? Make you hype?
Nah. I don't know what you be drinking, man.
I'm just saying, do you want some?
No, it's okay.
Man, let's get on to another pressing issue. Another
Audrey,
pressing
bring in the
issue.
TV, please.
Can we get on to another pressing issue? I don't care. We don't care
Oh,
about
wait,
it.
let's go back to the mandate. Let's go back to mandate. We didn't finish that up.
No, let's go to R. Kelly, man. R.
No,
Kelly.
yeah, we're gonna go there, but let's go back to the mandate for a minute, right? So a lot of people, like a lot of jobs now. Yeah, we have that, John, and we have the Rikers, and we have the school safety. So we have a lot of topics. Hopefully, we get to them before. Andre, you're gonna have to be on us to make sure we stay on task, right? On time. Even better. A lot. You know, I've been watching the news, John and Joanne, about the federal mandate, the state mandate, the city mandate for teachers, and I've yet to see. Thank you, Carol, for that comment where she said which Texas would adopt some of New York's policy, and I'm assuming on the vaccine, John, that we were talking about.
Right.
I've seen that 100% of schools, 90% of schools that are fully vaccinated, right? I don't hear people walking out. What do you hear on your front? What do you see on your front? Not here. What do you see? I don't see any. I've interacted with several schools and I don't see any.
Well, wait until Monday.
Right?
That's the thing. Wait until
Why
Monday.
we have to wait till Monday, Doc? What's going on Monday?
Because
Monday
the mandate starts tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Excuse me, Roger. Could the doctor please answer the question? Thank you.
Yeah, my
Thank you,
apologies.
Roger, for answering for me. Yes, because as of Friday, 5 p.m., Saturday, if you're not vaccinated, it's a wrap.
So does that go for like if you have a Saturday job or per session activity, you can't go?
Yes, you have to show proof on Saturday.
To whom?
To school safety.
To school safety? So every teacher that comes in.
Every individual, except the children, show proof. Same with parents. If parents are coming in, they have to show, in order to come inside the building, they must show proof that they're vaccinated.
Yeah, I went to visit a school this week, John. I had to show my I had to pull up my what's it called? My New York Excelsior, whatever that link, that ID thing to show my vaccine. So what is the uncurrent? Do you hear like a lot of teachers say they're done, or what do you hear? You're in schools. What do you hear?
I do hear teachers say that they're not coming back. I even watching.
Well, we're gonna hear that, but I'm saying, is it the vast majority, a small percentage? What do you? That's what I'm talking. I know people are gonna quit.
I say a small percentage of those, and especially those who are not parents. You find more younger teachers who never had children or anything, and who have rich husbands, could stay home. They're like, we're out.
You know, John, speaking of that rich husband and not children, that's one of the things that the Pfizer vice president was talking about, where he said about pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's a lie, right? That people that you can become infertile, and then they showed that 90,000 pregnant women took the test and nothing happened to them. So he was basically saying these things, and which built on the fear to find out that factually that information was false.
Back in the day, what we call that is gossip.
Yeah. But if you're interested in the gossip, though, John, that gossip is real. Let's talk about two topics before we get to R. Kelly, because we know we're expecting a public advocate to come on. What time? What's our time check, Andre? What time is it now? What time is it? No. 7:26.
Before you switch, you know what's sad? What's sad is to see teachers some of the older veterans quit on national television to say, I'm out. What type of message are we leaving for the children? What type of message are we leaving overall?
But do you know what you say? What type of message are we leaving for the children? What type of messages that the teachers are giving to their children? I mean,
health. They're thinking of their health. They're thinking, hey, I'm not going to be forced to do anything.
John,
is it okay? I'm sorry, doctor. Okay.
Answer Doc's question. He said before you didn't answer her question. I
What's
didn't
the
hear the
question,
question.
Doc?
So what was the question, Doc?
Who said I didn't? What type
No,
of
no,
message?
no.
That
I was
was-
told to tell John to answer the question, but I didn't hear the question either. What was the question? What was the question? Joanne asked a question. What was the question you asked, Joanne?
About what type of message we're sending to children? That?
Yes. What type of message? And my my question then to your question. My question is that we worried about the message. What about the message that the children are receiving? You know what I'm saying? Well, I can understand if you don't take the vaccine because it has some impact upon your health.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not the case, you're just concerned about if it's because it's a mandate, somebody's forcing you to do something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have a choice. When you drive your vehicle, you have a choice of whether you want to insure your car or not insure your car. But if you don't insure your car, you then suffer the consequences that come.
Well, a lot of people do not want to choose a job over their health, and that's the
But the issue, Joanne, is not even about health, but going back to what John is saying, it's a falsification of what the health is, right? Is I believe that this can happen without proof, right? I believe, like, okay, you didn't consult with a doctor, you consulted with the Bushman, right? That says, you know, you do this and avoid COVID. But if you have a pus growing a bump on your arm with pus going through it, you don't consult the Bushman, you go to the doctor. I know some people do consult the Bushman until they go to the doctor at the point of no return. Right. But at that point, you want to go see the doctor, and then there's nothing. The doctor, you already lost your foot, you already lost your toe. But now you're going to the doctor because now you're seeking the help because you went on false information. Now you go to the doctor says, you know, Roderick, with your treatment, you can't take this vaccine because you have something in your body that's going to interact negatively on your body.
That's a different story. I can understand.
That's a whole different conversation. Now,
So-
to say that I don't know what we had this conversation before. Nobody knows what's going into their body with a lot of things. I said last week, people talk about organic food. Most of us can't afford organic food every day. We eat McDonald's, we eat Chinese food, we eat the corner store food, right? Every day. We go have the pizza, we go have the this, right? And we don't know what was a couple years ago in Seinfeld to talk about MSG. I don't want no MSG. I want gluten-free. What is gluten anyway? Does anybody even know what that is? I want something that's gluten-free. So I'm just saying that we kick off on what we choose to be kick off on about.
So that's the beef. Mainly having somebody tell you what you need to do, what you have to do.
You know what? I can agree with that, but it's about you're just concerned about your individuality, yourself, instead of what's good for the collective whole. And this is not for me. This is for everybody else around me that may be impacted by my decision not to take that vaccine. And if I get COVID, might pass it along, or I might get sick, or it's a possibility I could die from it. Who knows? There's the uncertainty. Tomorrow is not promised to anybody. There's uncertainty every day. There's uncertainty from the time we wake up to the time we go back to sleep.
Absolutely.
But my point is this: is your beef just because somebody tells you have to do this? It's more than you have to. It's just more than that. Put your ego and your attitudes aside. And what is important for the collective whole? You know what I'm saying? If you have a health issue and it's going to impact you, that's a different story I can agree with.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's where we are.
Right.
I'm just so tired of false news. Shane Trotman is remind us that gluten refers to wheat proteins. But what is bad about wheat proteins?
Some people are allergic to it. Like my child is allergic to wheat overall.
Okay, so that's what they need to say on the thing, gluten free, putting fancy name on something. I want gluten.
Thank you, Shane.
I would thank you, Shane, for that for that explanation. I appreciate that. Right.
All right, enough with the vaccine.
All right, let's talk about Rikers. What is it that they said that they're going to update Rikers?
Well, first of all, your mayor.
Not my mayor, our mayor. I mean, he's my boy, he's my friend. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to deny that. Maybe that's why you're saying it, but our mayor, just like our president was Trump.
Yes, I'm gonna go back. You know what? I need to go back. I have to address this because when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So I will fully admit I was wrong for saying, I didn't address former President Trump correctly.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen of the village,
Ladies
the
and
first
gentlemen.
time ever, an acknowledgement by the doctor that she was wrong. First time ever.
Yeah.
Write it down.
The last
day of September 2021.
Kumbaya, man. I can't believe the doctor
Last
said
time.
she was wrong.
Yes, and it will
Right.
be the last time that you hear me call him that.
Kumbaya, man.
First and last.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. So you were saying about our mayor. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yes. The mayor finally decided
Our mayor. You still live in New York, right?
the mayor of New York City
John, we got to get an apology a month from now.
finally decided to go and visit Rikers. Now,
No, I can't say he decided to visit Rikers before that. He has. So
when?
he has
He just
visited
didn't
Rikers
go,
before
but he had
that.
decided, yeah.
Before that. Yes, he has. He has visited Rikers.
All right, John. Stand up for your man. Okay.
No, it's the truth.
Wait, John. The decision that our mayor makes, whether he's my mayor or John's mayor, affects you, right? Because I
The
think
mayor of New
tomorrow
York City,
at 5 o'clock, if you don't take your vaccine, you don't have a job on Monday, right?
the mayor of New York City.
Again, our mayor, right? I'm gonna tell when he comes on. I'm gonna tell him too that you said
I don't care, and I'll call him the mayor of New York City as well.
So anyway, so Rikers is John, not for nothing. When we really talk about Rikers, right? And R. Kelly will be joining his further inmates there at Rikers until they move him on.
Rikers, he's not going to Rikers, Rikers.
He's going to state pen.
He's going to
Was
MDC.
it federal charge?
Yes, Metropolitan Detention Center. Nope, he's not going to.
Yeah, so
he's not going to Rikers.
He's going to be in for a while. But one of the things that when a lot of people ask for a reform, and I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody today, and they were like, people fail to recognize that these are criminals, right? And my response was, there has to be some humanity as well, that they're human beings like everybody else. And you might have made a mistake. I'm not even talking about the career criminals. Career criminals, I couldn't care less. But when you talk about somebody who, might have made a mistake or is petty, it's important and they need to be treated with dignity. But on the flip side of that, how they're treating the correction officers, right? The role that they're playing, it's almost like the inmates have more rights than the correction officers. They can do more. Some conditions, some things that they have to go through are deplorable. Having feces thrown at them, getting spit on. Their dignity is not there, and that's why. So people have to. And I guess I'll ask Jumaane this: do you really look at people walking away from the job, and attrition is so bad that you can't find staff? In correction is hard to staff. You have to actually mandate officers now to do overtime. because people don't want to be there. So you just have to, you can't just say, oh, what's going on with the inmates. You have to understand, you have to go on both sides. What's going on, period, with the system. You're muted, Joe.
No, you're right about that. If you feel as though you're not supported and you're getting attacked all the time,
Mhm.
and if you respond back, then you become the criminal. Which road do you take? Do you understand? So you're there, Christian radio. If you do this, you're gonna get punished. If you do that, you're gonna get punished. So I'd rather not be a part of it at all. And that's the road that many decide to take.
And right, and they're leaving the system. So I think there's too much pressure on the officers to do certain things. Now, again, maybe what they need to do is probably build more prisons so they can. And it sounds bad to say build. I don't like the idea of saying building more prison because it's like you're welcoming more people, right? So it's like a negative thought, right? But build more prisons so that you have more space. And so
No, we need to build less prisons, my friend.
So
there's a lot of
John, here's a question for you. I agree. Let's build less prison. The question is, will there be less crimes?
You know what? There will be less crimes if we do what is so important: preventive measures, giving them opportunities, giving them things to do. Go to the educational systems, get the business community involved in it. This is the holistic approach, man. A lot of these young kids have so many learning disabilities. A lot of them can't read, can't write. You know, we need to spend time.
Mm-hmm.
We need to spend that time educating them.
Agreed.
You know, so I mean,
with you on that.
I mean, you know, we always worry about, you know, what can we do to pull them out the freaking water? Let's prevent them from going in the water in the first place. Let's get them. You know, one thing that the mayor did talk about, I think, is pre-K. That was very important. Grab them when they're young. Try to educate them, steer them. Charter schools, whether who don't like them or not, I think charter schools is just another opportunity to educate our children. Anything that we can give to our kids to give them an opportunity to be competitive, I will support. I'm always for that. But
so, here's a question that I have, though.
Yeah.
Until we get to that point, which is very important, and stay free, Michael. Good point. How about actual rehabilitation while they're in prison? Agreed. Until we get to that point, what do we do? Until we get to that, because at the end of the day, we're trying, like you said, John, 100% in agreement. Let's do preventive measures.
Let's
fight it. But what do we do in the meantime?
Let's meet them where that.
The history of time, there have been robbery, rape, murder, are the seven, and Terrence, you're on, so you could tell us what the seven majors are. Those things have been happening since time. What do you do with that?
Let's meet them where they are. Let's go to where they are. Let's tackle the issues. Let's go. We know where the crime is at. Let's go to those communities full force. Community groups,
again,
the
you're
police,
still not
everybody.
The question, though. You're not answering the question. You're talking
What's
about
the question?
before. The question becomes, I get that. I agree with you. That's the preventative measures. Right? I'm talking about when a situation is happening. Charlene writes, these corrections officers are fed up with being attacked by the inmates and no repercussion, the respect is lost. Then when a CO goes out, with CO being the correction officers goes out on injury, they're being forced to return to work. My question is, the preventive measure is great. So this way, if that preventive measure works and we have less inmates, which is the aim, that's great.
Right.
The question is, what happens when they're incarcerated because of these negative acts?
Well,
why?
You know, one thing that
why are the officers, right? Why are the officers being brutalized? And I'm going to use that word, it's a harsh word, inside for doing their job. And that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we're trying to get them not to get there, But remember, since the beginning of time in the Bible, the 10 Commandments, right? That's there in Exodus 20. If you read them, they're
Oh,
there. Or Deuteronomy 6, you get to it, you read them, they're there. You get what I'm saying? So it's not now that crime has been happening. It's not now that jails have been in effect. Now, United States is the most incarcerated place in the world. But it doesn't mean that they're not prisons everywhere in the world. And I've visited at least, I think I was doing the number, and I'm around 20 countries. And in every country, there's policing. In every country, there are jails. What is going on with the disrespect of the officers in the jail? That's what I'm saying.
That started a while ago, the disrespect of officers, period. That started last year when you have officers being attacked nonstop. So it just became something that became the norm all of a sudden. So, you lose respect for those in authority. And that's the culture that we're in right now, unfortunately.
You know what? Before the officers, there was a level of respect between those who are inside and those who watch over them. That level of respect has eroded because of the lack. Because honestly, because you have a lot of young kids who are in Rikers Island who haven't matured or understand the level of respect that they need to have for these officers. These officers can make your life worse than what it is, but more so, they think what they're doing in Rikers, they can rebel, they can do what they want to. But when they go upstate to these rural, predominantly white areas, majority of those state correctional officers are not minority, and they will give them the time of their life.
So you say is that kind of like a slavery thing? Is that what you're saying, back the slavery days?
It's not a slavery thing. It's discipline. It's the discipline that they will administer without a thought. Slavery. It's without a thought. But they go in here and
what do you mean? Explain discipline without a thought. Give me an example.
Without a discipline, they can't jump out of. Do you hear any state correctional officers being attacked and their jaws being broken by inmates? I hear very far and few between.
Yeah, because they get murdered.
Right. Say no more. It's the fear that is instilled. These people on the island have no fear. They don't fear. They're not concerned about the repercussions. But you know what's interesting? After they do what they do, they get sentenced, and then they go upstate. 5 or 6 years later, they say, "Dad, why did I do that?"
So what are some ways?
How do we fix it? We go in. It's just like, what we have been doing at Exodus. Exodus has been going into these facilities and talking to. We send into Exodus. We send individuals who have been justice impact. Individuals who have spent 20, 30, sometimes 40 years to go and speak to these young kids and let them know, you know what, you need to curb your act. Because, we have one young man, he is 56 years old, and he did 30 years. He went in when he was 21 years old. We have a young lady who did 27 years. And her most telling thing to me was, she said, I went to prison in my childbearing years, and I came out in my menopause.
Our guest is here, so let's bring him on, Andre. Our public advocate, Jumaane Williams.
Peace.
And our mayoral our gubernatorial candidate.
Man, he can wait till we finish our discussion, man. He can wait, man. He got all the time in the world, man.
Is here. We're just having a conversation about Rikers, and for me personally, a public advocate, we need to look at a two-pronged approach when it comes to Rikers Island. I know that you've been in the media a lot regarding reforming of Rikers Island. What does it look like? I said, actually, not even reforming. I think closing it down, right? I think that's where your stance is. Just let me give you an opportunity to go ahead and tell us your stance on that. And then we can
peace and blessings, everybody. Thanks for having me on, man. And always a blessing to see you, Rudy. Just want to make sure I say
thank
that.
Thank you. Yeah.
What I just was asked this question. Basically, that question has been asked and answered, and it took a long time, so I don't think it makes sense to rehash it. A lot of money, a lot of effort went into it. There is a plan to close it. I think we should just move forward with that. One of the issues with Rikers is out of sight, out of mind. We've seen a lot of problems with that. What we do need is accountability. We do need a way to try to make folks be better residents and citizens of the city. I don't think that's what Rikers does. And you know, the justice, quote unquote, criminal justice system probably doesn't do that well anyway. If you had the kind of success rate that's witnessing the recidivism rate for any system, no one would accept that. And so we have to be clear about that. What I have said is when it comes to Rikers, I'm always, clear that there are people on both sides of those bars. They're black and brown primarily. In terms of corrections, they're primarily women, and they come from the same neighborhoods. And so to have them exist in a space like Rikers for as long as they have, I think it's primarily because of how they look and where they're from. I don't think any other group of folks will be allowed to be the way they are in Rikers. And I'm very vocal about that. What I saw, by the way, I don't know how to describe it. I couldn't sleep that night. I felt bad being able to go back to my own home. When I went in May, it was bad. The things we always hear about. When I went in September, it was a humanitarian crisis. If that place was on the news from another country, we would have asked for international intervention over there. And that's because we let it go so long, so bad. When you have Joe Borelli, for the Republican from Staten Island, saying what he saw, he thought we were exaggerating, and he realized it was not hyperbole. That's how bad it was over there.
So then again, we are talking about it from both sides, right? So we're looking at what is happening with the corrections officers. They're leaving. They feel disrespected about what's happening out there on the island, and it's becoming one of those places that is hard to staff because they feel like the government is putting in too much policies that's affecting the ability for them to do their work. And so now you have to find all of these different mediums in order, which includes NYPD officers actually going out there to assist and the mandated time based upon the fact that a lot of these correction officers are leaving. What is your response to that?
So one, I will be honest, and I was honest before. If I worked there, I wouldn't want to come to work. It was dangerous. I don't even think the folks who were on the tour could say that we were 100% safe. It was bad in there. Of course, there's a chicken and an egg. The more people who don't come, the worse that it gets. But I respect what they're going through. Women are getting assaulted and worse. Like these things, it was terrible what I saw. But the answer is that I always, Benny, who was a corrections officer, union leader, we agree on actually much more than people think. But one where we always part is we got to hire more officers. And you can't. Like, you have too many officers out. You can't continue to pay those and hire another 2,000. And here's the kicker. If you hire 2,000 officers right now, they won't come on until January because they have to be trained. We won't make it to January. And so you have to get people who understand the job and who are already trained to come back. In order to do that, you have to be serious in showing them that you are willing to keep them safe. If you can't even get doors to lock, then what are you doing? That's the most basic of things. There's policies that I think people, make worse than it is. One of the policies that we agreed on, and I agreed on when they did it, is when they started housing people who were on the same street crews together in one house. They said way back when I was a council member that was going to make things more dangerous because often when they're mixed, they at least create some balance. And I agree with them. And we saw it play out. So they go into sometimes one housing area and there's no balance. Everybody's from one street crew, and that can be a problem. But there's also things that we skip over. Like the biggest mental health institution is on Rikers Island in North America. There should not be people who have mental health challenges on Rikers Island in a prison system. That by itself would keep people safe. And so we keep skipping to the policies that we're putting in place so we don't abuse people while they're actually waiting for trial, because most of the people who are there aren't even convicted of anything, but they shouldn't be abused. And we're saying that you shouldn't, what I've said, you can isolate people who are a danger to themselves or other people who are housed there, but solitary confinement, everybody agrees, is actually abuse. And so you can't use that. But you need to isolate, but not necessarily separate, but not, you should separate, but not necessarily isolate. Separate them from general pop, but you can't isolate them to solitary confinement. And so people are skipping over a bunch of things and trying to keep the system the way it is and just tinker with it a little bit. That system is designed for the violence that we're seeing. And that's what the problem
is. You have a program which, like what John is a part of, which is Exodus, that helps to rehabilitate persons who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. What is your office going to do to help programs like those? You have community programs like East Flatbush Village that occupy the corner. I could speak about Brooklyn because that's where we're from, and we have things like the God Squad that helps. What is the administration, your office, pushing to do as the public advocate to increase programs like those? To if you pull up back Harold Wise's comment where he said that there's no respect, they respect nothing or no one. That's in terms of the inmate. What is your office going to do to help to change that look? And what John was also talking about prior to coming on, the difference between the Rikers Island and the state prison.
Well, what's up, Harold? Good to see you. Harold and I have had some interactions. I do want to just say, when we say they, we just have to be careful, because there were people who were there when I was there who were actually felt bad for correction officers who were saying, we're not getting what we need, but we understand that this officer has been here for 3 tours, sometimes quadruple tours. There were people who were housed there who were actually asking for additional officers because they felt unsafe. And so when we say they, we just have to be careful. I do understand that there's some people who should not be on the streets. Like, that's just, I'm clear about that. And there are some people who are a danger to themselves or to other people. But when we do this mass lumping, we just have to be careful. And I will remind folks, we've been hearing this for years. Rikers Island used to be up to almost 20,000 people. We're down to about 6,000. We should have seen a spike in crime that was unimaginable, but that never happened. We do see a spike in crime now, but we see that nationally, which means what we're doing here in New York is not the necessary. A line here is causing this, because we see this happening nationally. That doesn't mean that there isn't disrespect, and there isn't people are getting assaulted, actually on both sides, but there's not people who are housed there who are doing things they shouldn't, and they have to have accountability for it. And I want to be 100% clear about that. But what we have done in the past hasn't worked. And so what I've always done is push forth measures. We're very good at the punishment part. Like, we get that. We want to punish you. But we're not very good at putting together and funding things that will help people get better, that will help people. I'm sorry, some law enforcement around the city is suffering because of the policies. When people say that, I don't know what policies they're saying that are not working. Like, I really want to dig into that, because I think people are looking at the media sometimes and thinking that things are the way they're not. Like, in Brooklyn, people may not understand, we have dramatically gone down in shootings. It's way too high. Let's just be clear. But we actually are going in the right direction. So I'd like to know from that person what policies they're thinking that isn't working. And I would remind folks that one shooting is too much. So data means nothing if you're a victim of crime. But in 2019 and 2018, we were the safest city we had ever been since they recorded numbers. And we were the safest city in this nation. We did that with the same policy that people are pushing now. We were saying we don't have to stop more young black men than live in the city of New York. We funded many of those programs that you spoke about. We funded the violence interrupters, and they worked. What I want to remind people, if you go back to 2018 and 2019, people were saying the very same thing. People were saying,
but public advocate, not to interject, but that's 2018, 2019. You got 2021, and this week, you had a 16-year-old who was shot and killed. You had a 16-year-old in East New York. You had another 16-year-old. You had a slashing uptown where two kids are. You know,
the incident in Harris Truman High School as well.
Right. And the level of crime, yes, has decreased, but in our areas, that level of crime always seems to be permeating, always seems to be rearing its ugly head. We know where the crime is coming from. You know, they always say crime comes from 5 assembly districts. 5 assembly districts where the majority of those who are housed in upstate prisons, they come from 5 assembly districts throughout the 5 boroughs. And, you know, what do we have to do? You know, and one thing is the bail reform. You know, everybody talked about the bail reform and people letting out, and, you know, I'm all for it, but at the same time, we got to see the repercussions, things that had happened. You know, so we got to go to the genesis of this. We can do what we have to do now, but we have to go back to the genesis.
John, the way I answer the questions to do sometimes is because we have a right to be angry. We have a right to want something done because this violence is happening. But oftentimes when we do it because of that, we don't see results and we make it worse. And what I'm saying, the reason I talk about 2018 and 2019 is because everybody was saying the same things now that they were saying then. Now we're saying if we can only get back to 2018, 2019. But if you go back, the same conversations were happening. Everybody was saying the violence is out of control. It's always too high. I get it. But what we were saying then was we were actually the safest we ever been. So sometimes you can be safe and not feel safe, and that's still a problem. And so I want to always put it in perspective because we're here now, we can't ignore it, but we weren't always there. And if we could arrest ourselves out of the problem, that should have already worked. Like how much arrests are we going to do to make it work? What I'm saying is it doesn't. The bail reform.
No, I'm not.
But let me just add one more thing. The bail reform can't explain the rise of violence and gun violence all across this nation because it's just New York State. And so I want us to be clear, like just because something happened and then something else happened, there's no correlation. When you have the New York Post having to say, we don't see the numbers don't bear out that people who are let out are the reason for the rise in violence, then we know something. And because of those people that are dying and because they look like me, I don't want to rush to something that doesn't work. Those people and those victims, they want something that stops this from happening. You and I have been on way too many funerals.
But what do we do? Because it's always it's us. It's us. It's us. We're the ones going to the funerals. We're the ones who are killing one another. Yes. We're the ones. So, you know, and everybody can talk about, you know, arrest, or some of these cats just need to be off the street. Some of them need to be given an opportunity.
I agree with you, but I have to say, and people keep saying, well, one of the criminals are going to be taken. One of the criminals, someone put it, when are they going to be held responsible for their actions? Where is it that criminals are not being held accountable for their actions? People have been in jail for a very long time. This we're talking about even the bail reform and all that. This is new. If you go back, the violence we're in is about 2010, 2011. Those are the days we're in. So people are thinking that it's much worse, but that we're about the 2011 timetable. And we said then that if we do a set of things, we can make people safer. And we did. What happens now is the frustration that people are feeling because everything hasn't worked. Police weren't defunded. You show a place that has crime, and I'll show you a police department where funding was increased. But to your question specifically, one, Congress has to do a better job of preventing guns from coming into the community, right? there's too many guns coming in. That's a supply. But on the demand side, we have to do a much better job of funding the things that help people make better decisions and understanding that public safety is not just one thing. And so our law enforcement has a role to play, an important role. They just stopped somebody who was doing a mass shooting, who shot four people. More people are going to get shot. Thank God they were there. But that is not a totality of public safety. And what I would tell people is close your eyes and think about a community that you deem safe. I will guarantee you that that community does not have a police officer on every corner. And if they do, you don't deem it safe. And so what is making the communities you think about feel safe? What do they have access to that makes it feel safe? And I will guarantee you that the communities where these things are happening don't have access to the same thing. And if we can provide that access, we will see a change in behavior. At the same time, that doesn't excuse people running around shooting grandmothers and one-year-olds and children stabbing each other in schools. What I'm saying is that the overuse of the arrest and prison, if that was the answer, we would not be having this call right now. And that's where my frustration lies, because I don't oppose the fact that some people should not be on our streets. But
I don't think that's nobody's saying that's the answer. You know, and I definitely am not saying that's the answer. I think the answer, it's a holistic approach to dealing with where it's like a cancer. Where the cancer is, we need to go in there, we need to eradicate it. That means if we have to provide better job opportunities, better educational opportunities, housing, it's the whole entire approach to prevent crime from rearing its ugly head. And that's what needs to be done.
You know,
I would just say, like, you have to, I know I have to go and I apologize, but I would just say this, even when they do these takedowns, put aside the problems with the takedowns in general, but let's assume that it worked. Why do you have to come back another 5 years later? Because you didn't put anything else down there, and the same thing is going to happen. But what we have to have are leaders that have the courage to have the conversation that we're having now. Because what I've found, even people who disagree with me, when we sit down and have this conversation, they actually agree. But when you're running in a race, you're going to say whatever it is that you think is going to get you a vote. And that has harmed us, because this is a complex question, which needs a complexity of answers.
I know you have to run public advocate. Harold Wise just wrote a comment, which you don't really have to do. I agree with that. Better schools, after school program, mentoring program, that's what's missing. I think that's what's happening with Exodus, and I know that you push forward with that issue. I want to move on very quickly before you go about the exploratory committee that you have set up for governor for 2022. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you are, you won the public advocate vote by a landslide. Congratulations on that. I think, what was it, 71% or something like that? When you do have a race this year, right? You actually,
in a couple of weeks in November.
But you set up an exploratory committee on running for governor. You ran for lieutenant governor, I think, what was it, 2018?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, real fast.
We're taking nothing for granted, so I hope people come out and vote November 2nd. I would be honored to have you be a public advocate again. Unfortunately, the way the calendar is laid out, we don't set it, and so we'll have to make decisions at the same time. Never wanted to be deceptive to folks, so I would love to be your public advocate. At the same time, I have to entertain what's going to happen in June next year. But keeping in mind, a governor is not going to take office until 2023. So we opened an exploratory committee, very excited about it. We started thinking that, there's a toxicity that's been in Albany, and John knows it, and how it's operated for a very long time, even before Cuomo, but definitely through it. And just because you remove one person doesn't mean that the infrastructure isn't there. It doesn't mean, when I ran in 2018, I ran very specifically because I said, what if we have a lieutenant governor that will have the courage to speak up when things are going wrong, speak up when Jacob is not being used properly, speak up when these ethics scandals are there, when money's being spent wrong. That didn't happen. And if it did happen, New York might not have been the epicenter of the epicenter because of decisions that were made by executive. That hasn't changed. And so I know that you can't just change one person. You really have to change the infrastructure and how people do business. And I think we have a vision of how that can be done that's unique. And so we've given a very strong indication about what we would like to do. But like we did in 2018, we put an exploratory committee out to speak to folks, to make sure that the vision aligns with what people want. And it worked out last time pretty well. So we're expecting it to be the same this time.
All right, and your hope. How are you going to get to the eastern part, the western part of the state? That I mean, you're a city boy, so how are you going to how? What are some plans that you have for getting to the western part of the state?
Well, I was a city person last time as well, but what I did figure out and what I learned very quickly, and John knows this, is that this upstate downstate divide is a creation. Most of the issues that we deal with in New York City, they're dealing with in Buffalo, they're dealing with in Rochester, dealing with in Syracuse, Ithaca, Hudson Valley, all of it. Gentrification, housing issues, education, transportation, gun violence, policing issues. So they're not unique issues. They are unique based on the culture that's there. But what the bottom line is not. And I've been able to connect on those issues, understanding that a lot of folks are looking at how Albany can help and why they haven't for a very long time. And so I'm excited about having that discussion again. And I fell in love with the state when I ran in 2018. So I'm looking forward to it again. Peace and blessings, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to come back again.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, public advocate.
Everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And say hello to the wife for me.
I will. Thank you. Peace.
All right, cool. All right. God bless. So thank you, the public advocate, for joining us. We didn't get to a couple questions that I wanted to ask, but we only had it for a short time, and the big topic was Rikers Island. How do you feel about some of the comments, Joanne, that the public advocate made?
The comments he made,
start with you, Joanne.
or the comments from our audience? Which one?
Well, both.
Okay, audience 100% on. Policy change. I know he mentioned, some of the policies we made were back then or whatever. But my question is, there's not a check and balance area. So we're letting people with the bail reform, our issues with the bail reform is people who commit crimes over and over and over again, they let them out. So there's no checkpoint for that. And that's what people are upset about. Like, how do you let someone who committed the same crime 8 times and nobody's checking that, and they're still out on the street? So with policies, when we create policies, we have to create a way to check to make sure that we have safety and things are being rolled out effectively. Because sometimes we make changes and just to say, hey, we appease everyone, but in the rush of things fall apart and we leave important components out. So I heard what he said, but with the bail reform, there's areas and layers that there was holes, that certain things like this person committed the same crime 12 or 10 times, that no one caught it until it was too late.
Yeah, it does get sad. John, I didn't ask him a question, but I felt like you knew the answer to this. I didn't want to ask. What are they going to do with the incarcerated people when they close Rikers?
What they're doing is they're trying to build detention centers throughout the city to spread them across. But in the process, they're still trying to reduce the number of individuals who can go into other, who have other options to go into, to go into halfway houses and things like that, or facilities in which dealing with those who want to re-entry back into society who are not violent. So that's what the scheme and plan is for.
And he mentioned that January might be too late. So
what do you do, right?
Are you? Is anyone, maybe even our audience member, know of a timeline that they're talking about in terms of closing down Rikers? Does anybody know the answer to that? I don't know the answer.
I think he was talking about January is too late for safety.
For more officers to come out, because they still have the problem today. But the fact of the matter is, what are you going to do between October, November? Tomorrow's October, right? So October, November, December on the class, right? So you have 120 days for that class to come out in
And that's a major
January. So what is going to happen? We're still going to have some of the same issues that we're having now.
Right. And, he mentioned a point about putting group of people in the same cell area, and that's not safe. And that could be part of the problem when you put, hey,
What do you mean? I heard when he said it, but what do you? My understanding is that if you live in the same area, I'm gonna put you in the same.
Yeah, but if I was hanging out and I was committing crime with Bobby down the block, and I'm 2 cells away from him, why would you do that? It's better that you put Bobby with people who are in Staten Island if I live in Brooklyn, or maybe somebody, somewhere they would have no connection with. So that's my thought on that. Like, hey, the check-in system needs to be a lot more effective so that we don't have the issues that we're having. Does that make sense to you? You're muted.
Yeah. I've just been. Somebody sent me a voice note. I was trying to listen to it while you were talking. It's funny. It's very interesting that there are 2 sides to it, right? And at the end of the day, what was I saying? At the end of the day, he is a public advocate, and he won by 7 out of 10 votes. It's not even like it was close. So there are a lot of people on the flip side who voted for him and do say that what he's doing is the right thing. You understand what I'm saying? So is it the minority that's speaking? Because whatever he's doing, and comes November, I'm pretty sure he's going to get 98% of the votes.
Right. Exactly. Check.
Therefore, there is a lot of agreement, and his popularity rising is very awesome for him, and especially for the Caribbean community. Harold, go back. You brought up a comment before we bring up Harold's comment. I think it was checks and balance. Yeah. So and go back one as well. Somebody else wrote something. I think go back to one more comment. Go back one.
And you know what?
Risa, what do you mean by "Oh Lord, we're doomed"?
If I think she's more talking about waiting till January until you get, it's sad to hear that.
It's Rikers Island. You know what? And John, thank you for bringing up a couple of those points about the shooting around the schools. Our schools are not safe, and unfortunately, we only had them for a short period of time. So many things to go over, but there's a push to get rid of school safety agents out of schools, and schools are really not safe. They're not. And whenever I talk to people like John and Jumaane and people who talk about rehabilitation, John, I'm put you on the spot, failing to realize that there is an existing problem. And the preventative measures that we're talking about is for futuristic problems,
right,
and not for today's issues. The girl, the 15-year-old who got killed yesterday by a 16-year-old, that's a real issue. The mother who brought up the bat to school to fight the kid, and these are the ignorant mother who brought up a bat.
That's been going on for when I was in school.
No, I'm not disagreeing, because when I was assistant principal, it was going on. Parents were sitting
when
outside.
I was in school, it was no.
No, don't get me wrong. Listen, when I went to my 11, I saw a kid got beat outside of my 11, on Ralph Avenue and Ralph Avenue, closer to Beverly Road, in front of my 11, got knocked out cold, and one of my my good friends now, who was then my dean, Jafkin, I don't know if he was there when you were there, John, came out and he basically saved the kid's life. So it's not like crimes have not been happening through history of schools. It has been. So, and then there was a need for school safety agents. So all of a sudden, the need no longer exists. I need to get rid of them.
Because they're switching them over
To what?
the DOE policy.
Not
So
the
it
deal.
goes to
No,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
policy is to get rid of them.
That's idea. That's crazy.
That's
And it's
idiotic in my mind. They're
Yeah.
pipelined to prison. I don't see that.
Yeah, that
So,
doesn't make any sense.
You know, our next guest is here now. All right. You know, to me, I feel that we're getting to societies where what I don't know the exact expression. There's an expression that says something like somebody's running the house, like the crazy people running the madhouse or something like that. I don't remember what the expression is.
And you know what? I don't want people to use COVID or what happened as an excuse to bring the crime rate up. I think that's garbage.
But you know what? It's a real factor though, Joe. People have been cooped up in their house. All of a sudden, they come outside.
But they're all crazy.
That you'd be surprised. Just like pregnancy, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of children born this year and next year because you're home.
I'm not. So thank God for that.
you're not having.
That
was funny. I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah.
But the reality situation is
what happens?
Anger,
come back,
pent up.
They try to flip it and make it look like school safety is bad.
You could go ahead and read the comment.
The system is trash.
No, go ahead, read the comment from How Wise. Go ahead.
What happens in the street come back to the school, but they try to flip it and make it look like school safety is bad. The school system is trash, not school safety. Oh wow.
Well, that's a strong. I'm not going to agree with that statement.
Wow.
I'm not getting. I definitely don't believe the school system is trash. I think like school safety and the school system, everything needs to be reformed. However, I think it's vital to have school safety in schools.
Absolutely.
I just don't see a place where it's not happening. My interaction with school safety and with your new role, you're going to have a lot more interaction with your school safety as well.
You know what?
You're going to see that when you have to do perimeter checks, when you have to do these things, school safety is with you to ensure that your students at your school are safe. Because what people fail to realize sometimes when you talk about school safety is that there is a neighborhood. There is a neighborhood that these children live in. And those problems don't necessarily start in school. They might end up in school because everybody has to go to school. Right? So if I live on Franklin Avenue, I'm going to Prospect Heights. That's the school. The majority of us are going to Prospect Heights. We're going to go to Bedford, or we're going to go to Prospect Heights, or we're going to go to Erasmus. Guess what? You think the problem? I saw the Crip guy last week, and I'm a blood. We have a problem, but we both go to the same school. Guess what? I'm going to catch you when I get to school. I had one notice, Joanne, a couple of years ago, for a kid. The kid was a kid. Guess what? Guess what the call was? Dead on sight. And he went to the same school. That was a comment. Well, what do you think? You think the school counselors really is going to stop that dead on sight? Because they're not listening. When somebody's angry and these kids are acting out, they're not listening to no counselors to calm them down. Because you can't even get them to that point. First, you have to grab them. And then who's going to grab them? You're going to grab them and put them in office. And you're going to have some manpower to keep them from, first you got to give them their elevation level of anger to de-escalate. How are you going to get that unless you have the right amount of school safety? I'm talking about middle and high school kids. And you have 10-year-olds who are doing negative things, stabbing each other, cutting each other up. It's happening because it's coming from the community.
You're right about that, 100%. It's not as school used to be when we were in school. the 90s, years ago. No, it's a total different time, total different. And when they first started putting in the metal detectors, parents were upset about that. But
Yeah.
you'll be surprised how many things you actually find, students bring into school.
With metal detectors, and the kid know that we have metal detectors, and I had guns. I literally had guns come to school. It's interesting, Joanne, when it comes to safety. I had a situation where at the young age, we teach, a lot of us teach our kids, if somebody hits you, you need to hit them back. Nobody should put their hands on you, so you're going to fight. So first, I'm going to tell you, there's no discussion about calming you down. The moment somebody hits you, you need to hit them back. That is one of the stupidest advice that you're going to give anybody, but you give it. And then when you go to school, you have a lot of fights. Why? My daddy told me that if you touch me, I'm supposed to hit you. I might not be the one that started, but if you touch me, I'm going to hit you. And sometimes these kids at this age don't understand the hit. You get what I'm saying?
Here's the problem with that. Now people are not fighting the same way. You hit me and you'll come back with a gun. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
I give a lot of respect to school safety, because I've worked with many of them last year during the wreck. They were on the street. They were passing out. They had them doing all types of things, but they are one of the first set of individuals that your kids see before they come into the school. So
and
they
one thing,
block many of them.
America Barista's rich comment again,
A
Andre.
social worker today quoted, "She is not breaking up a fight. She don't get paid to do that, and she is not getting hurt."
Exactly. And that's not just that social worker philosophy.
That's many.
I've checked on cameras, Joanne, where there's a fight happening and the teacher scooted by the fight and walked into the office. And the fight is happening. Literally scooted by the fight. They pulled themselves against the wall and walked away because they're not getting involved. So, and school safety after. Our next guest is here. So let's bring that up. Bring them up on screen. Wow. I didn't expect to see all of you guys. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the right. Welcome to the village. Our co-host John Sampson had to leave us a little early, but thank you for joining myself. I'm Roderick Daly, the host of the show, and we have our co-hostess, Dr. Joanne Bryan. If you go ahead and introduce yourselves, you guys are a little bit far from the camera, so it's a little bit hard to see you, but I'm going to start with a gentleman with the beard.
I'm Eden Spinks, Senior. I'm the dad.
Is that a Trini accent? Is that a Trini accent I hear?
Yes.
By the way, I'm not talking. I know you're on for something serious, but I'm not talking to you unless you bring me my curry chicken, curry roti, right, and my sauce, right, my cold-heel sauce. If you're not bringing those, please disconnect yourself right off the radio.
I don't cook, so you can't talk to me.
I gotta talk to Grace. All right, I got you. All right, so go ahead, Eden, and you are. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I got Eden.
Oh, okay. I'm Grace Sphinx. I'm the mother, the cook, and everything in the house. Clean and everything. But
so when we get off here, just tell me the address. I'm coming. I told you what I'm coming for, right? I told you exactly what I'm coming for. Right? And
I'll take your order.
I'm a bus up shot. Is that what they call it? That's the name? Bus up shot? Is that the name?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes. Go ahead.
I'm Alexandria Sphinx, the baby sister. Baby family.
And you are?
I'm Shamika Maharaj, the older sister.
Okay, Shamika, Alexandria audience. Andre, you want to put their names on the screen? In the order. So you have Eden, Grace, Alexandria, and Shamika. That's Shamika? It's Shamika, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that SHAMEI or SHAMI?
No,
Not even close.
SHERMIKA.
Sharmika.
Yes.
Or like Cher,
Yes.
the singer. So, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, what we have, and thank you again for joining us right here on the Village Talk Show, where we're dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education, helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, at any point, starting from today. Success is not just spoken, it is done. And, as you know, you can listen to us on several channels, including TuneIn Radio, Roger F. Daily on Facebook, 92.1 FM GD Radio. We have here the Sphinx family. And earlier this year, they had a tragic loss. I mean, it's very unfortunate what happened. And Jumaane Williams was on a little bit earlier talking about prison reform. And then we lost a correction officer back in January, right, where he was shot and killed right outside of his home right here in Brooklyn. And so the family, they want, there's certain things, they want some things to happen. So I'm going to let's start with Shamika, the older sister. Tell us, first of all, tell us about your brother. What was he like?
He was a very happy person. He was humble. He was a comedian, loving. He was always about jokes, about life.
That's excellent. Alexandra, what do you miss most about your brother?
Clowning around in the house when we weren't supposed to. But mostly it was always me and him. If he had to go somewhere, I had to go with him. That's
he was your bodyguard.
Your road dog.
He's your road dog. Yeah. Mom and dad, it's your son. Was he your only son? How does, I can't imagine what it's like to lose a child. I know it must be hard. So tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about him growing up. Let the audience know who he is. He was fun loving, he was entertaining, he was a comedian, but let the audience know a little bit about him.
Well, I was fortunate enough, my wife, let me stay at home for the first 3 years of his life. I worked nowhere. I stayed home and took care of him. So he was very outgoing. He was very daring because coming from the Caribbean, I put no limit on what he tried to do. And we grew very close. My wife took him one day walking down by the park, Caton Park, and had him play soccer. And I said, he can't play no soccer. She said, you gotta come see him play. A month passed, you gotta come see him, he could play. And I went one day and watched him, and he looked like he had some kind of talent. So from there I started going, and Spanish guy told me, one of the parents said, you can't depend on the coaches for him to go far. You gotta take care and do what you gotta do. And from there I started doing, and it took him around the world playing soccer. He never get the break to make it, but it took him around the world. He been to 48 states in America playing soccer. He been to Italy, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Spain, England, playing soccer. So he traveled. He spent a year, 2 years in England trying to make it. So he was known. He was loved. And also he went to school. He left home at the age 14 and went to Shadow St. Mary in Minnesota on a soccer scholarship.
Wow.
The age 14, and at that time was $30,000 to go to that school. The most kids he ever been in a class with is 5 kids.
Wow.
So you know, it had no hiding when it come to education. He had to do his work and step up.
That is a beautiful story, because you know we make sure that we let you follow your dreams, but your education is also important. So you know, and that value definitely is there, and so we appreciate it and appreciate everything that you're talking about. You know, there's some comments coming in from some people online as well. So you know, that is awesome to see that. Elsie writes that he traveled the world playing soccer. My guy loved you forever, Sphinx.
Is that a picture of him right behind you?
Yes, as I was going to ask that. The military uniform, is that him?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Can we get a? Can we get a full view of what he? No, you can take it. It's okay if you take it down and put it back. It's we know the story is very sad.
No.
About what happened to him, and yes,
Handsome young man.
handsome. That's his correction officer uniform. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
And we were just talking about correction officers and what they endure and go through and the sacrifices that they make. And, you know, it takes a lot just to be a correction officer. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of dedication.
Humility. One of his sisters spoke about humility. It takes a lot of that, because she did say that, but true.
Yeah, so and it's a toll on the family overall. So you know, you guys are wonderful to support his dream. He went from soccer to going into, you know, becoming a superstar in the soccer field to actually dedicating his time to support and help others. That's powerful.
And you know, we do appreciate that.
Also, being as a correction officer, here we have ribbons here that this particular ribbon, the gray one, this is all signed by.
Lift it up higher. Thank you. Yes.
All signed. The gray one is all signed by prisoners.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Signed by prisoners. This is his officers, and this is another one is officers. But the gray one is only prisoners signed that. So that's the
volume
that he was even loved in the prison.
Right.
Can
you share what happened? Because some of our audience might not know. So I know it might be hard, but please share.
Well, I will say the Saturday, I can tell you from the Saturday morning, I went to work that Saturday. He left home, went and get a haircut. That was January 2nd. About 11:30, he went to get a haircut. He was by the barber. He cut his hair. We know this barber for over 15 years. We've been going there. And when I came home the afternoon, about 4 o'clock, he told me, I asked him to pull his car out the driveway. He said he gonna pull out because he's going out. So about 5 o'clock, he got dressed and he told me, Dad, I'm not coming back home tonight. I'm going to stay in the city. We got a hotel room. But before he left home, the last thing I remember, Shamika had on a red hoodie and a black sweatpants. He had on a red hoodie and a black sweatpants. And he went and stand next to her and asked the kids, who looked better, me or her? And he take his chest and thingy face and smile. That's he doing that to a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, asking them who look better, me or mommy. And he pat his chest, me, right? And he smiled. He left home, went in the city. So we went by my cousin, was her birthday on Lenox and Schenectady. We went to celebrate her birthday. So that his younger sister texts him and tell him about coming. He say he gonna come and get food because same thing we were just talking about. It had roti and curry, all different type of curry and stuff. So he came back to Brooklyn to come up to get his food, and he never made it upstairs. He called.
I spoke to him, and we were on the phone, laughing and joking, you know, making silly, typical West Indian jokes. And, you know, he was like, all right, I'm downstairs, open the door. So I went to open the door, and he didn't come out the car. I'm like, okay, I'm going back upstairs. It's cold. I'm not standing by this door to wait for you to come inside. So I went back upstairs, and then a few minutes later, I went back down, opened the door again. Still, nobody came out the car. I went upstairs again. I'm like, I don't have time to wait for anybody to come to the door. I'll leave it unlocked. When you come inside, you can lock it back. And then when I went back downstairs again, I saw the car door open, then somebody get back in. And it was just a whole, I was confused. And me being the little sister, annoyed, like, you're sitting in a car and I'm cold, waiting for you to come inside.
So while we were upstairs, my dad said, what's taking them so long to come upstairs? So I said, maybe the individual is arguing with him. As always, maybe 15 minutes after saying that, your phone rang?
Yeah, my phone rang, and it was like a silent call. I'm like, hello, hello, hello. No one's answering. So I just hung up the phone because maybe it was a butt dial or something. And then a couple minutes later, I got another call from someone that was with him, and I said, come downstairs. I don't know what happened. So I went downstairs, and it's January 2nd, cold outside, and socks, my pants, and a t-shirt. And I got to the car, and that's when I saw the whole scene of what happened.
So my son came upstairs running, screaming, because he had followed behind Alex when she went downstairs. He comes upstairs with a cell phone, and he says, Mommy, 911 is on the phone. Uncle Junior's been hurt. So I run downstairs, and the individual is by the door, and I'm asking her, like, what happened? What happened? She's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. So I run to the car and see Alex in the car with him, like, as well as being on the phone with the operator. I'm on the phone with the operator as well. And they're asking me, is everything okay? Is the child okay? And I'm like, yeah. They was like, what happened? I'm like, he's been shot. They was like, who? And then I had to tell them it was my brother. But Alex was also on the phone with the operator as well. So she's there, and she's like, you know, calling out his name.
Took me a few minutes before I can actually get any words out to speak to the operator. There was probably a good 2-3 minutes. I was just screaming nonstop.
Yeah, the shock of seeing someone you know get hurt, get shot, get injured. You don't know how to act for something like that. You won't know. You won't know to freeze, to cry, to scream. Sounds won't come out. So that is to be expected.
So the operator is telling me, is he responsive? Is he breathing? So I'm telling him, I don't know. My sister's with him. They was like, ma'am, could you go in the car to check? So when I get in, the firearm is in his lap with both hands on top of it. So we're out tonight.
Let me ask you a question. Going back, Sharmika, how was this? Do you have a visual of how the hand was placed on the gun? Was it on the trigger? Was it?
No, the gun was in his lap and both hands was like on top of it like this, like he's praying. Like, you know when you're in church and you have the Bible in your lap?
Right.
So he's sitting like
actually, it's funny because that's how my hand is right now. Yeah, I got you.
So
Yeah, you can't see it. Yeah.
So Alex was on one side of him. I was on the other side. Like I was on the passenger side, and we're calling out his name. And he said, "Yeah," but we're on the phone with the operator, and they're telling me not to hang up. Like it was a lot going through my mind. Like, but she's on the phone with them, and they're like, "Man, please stay on the phone with us. Please stay on the phone with us." So the my parents was already outside. The cops came. Well, before the cops came, I ran out of the car because they're telling me, look out for a squad car coming. So seeing the squad car, and I ran in the middle of the street and I waved them down to let them know that where the location was. Officer came out the car, ran up. My dad was on the driver's side outside of the car, and the officer ran to me. He said, "Who is the individual?" I'm like, "My brother." He was like, "What is his name?" So I told them. Then the officer went back to the car and picked up the firearm with no gloves on.
Oh.
Yes.
So wow.
And the individual stayed at the front of the door and was just directing everyone where to go. But her response is, "I don't know what happened."
Was that individual in the car with him at the time, or you don't know? You have cameras outside the show?
Yes. We even
have a video.
Our main problem is why didn't the NYPD do the job? Because we canvassed the neighborhood and we got a tape that shows at the time of the gunshot went off, she was in the car and she sat in the car for 10 to 15 minutes before she come out after the gunshot went off. And you could see someone moving about in the car from the videotape we have.
She was over him. Like you see in the video from the windshield, the individual's over him and the shot goes off.
Yeah, from the right. Yes, the person moving from the right to the left. So you could see if it's he got shot, is the person in the passenger seat who was moving. The alarm went off in the car. They turned the alarm off and start the car. So that's what I'm trying to understand. The main thing is why the
wait, did you? I'm sorry. Wait. You said that real fast. You said that fast. Go back. You said that the
after the
person reached over him and turned the car on.
No. The alarm went off.
In the car.
The individual turned the alarm off, the young lady, and started the car.
After
the alarm went off when the gunshot went off. The alarm went off in the car.
Right, maybe because
so
of
they turned the alarm off and start the car, and then sat in the car. From the videotape we got, 10 to 15 minutes before they came out. You see the house light came on in the car, it came back off, and you see the individual moving. So that's our question. We shared the tape with NYPD, and the detective that night said it was suicide. He even took the young lady bag out the car and give it to her. And when we asked for Junior cell phone, they say everything in the car is evidence. But yet still, they took the young lady bag out the car and give it to her.
So it seemed like there was a double standard.
Yes.
And also, it took them 2 months before they actually came to pick up the footage. And they're saying that they don't have the full footage.
So go back to that comment, Andre. If the race was reversed, white girl, black man, would the case be investigated thoroughly? So in other words, so I'm assuming the person in the car was white. Is that what?
Yes.
Is that based upon that comment? So you're
Yes.
saying if the white girl had died and the black man was alive, would they have investigated a homicide? I guess that's what that Neymar B is referring to. Is that how you feel?
Yes, that's how I feel. Because how you could determine is suicide and he left there alive from that night. He closed the case from that night, the detective.
So let's go back. Where was the shot? Where did he get shot?
Head, temple. It went through and through. It's like right above the temple.
Yeah, but it's all right. I understand. So the side, it went from one side of the head to the next. So
To the
basically through the brain, from the left side to the right side, or right side to the left side. Do you
Right
know?
side to the left side.
So I'm trying to think. I'm sitting in a car.
But
right
then, if you,
no, I'm hold on, Joe. I'm just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to imagine. So it came from the passenger side of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And they didn't do an investigation into that?
No. They didn't even swab her hand to determine how much gunpowder residue.
If there was any gunpowder. How did they immediately? What did they tell you? That I'm sorry. Let me just ask the question. I'm sorry, Joe. I forgot. I had to go back to you.
I was saying if it's a suicide, as soon as you shoot yourself, the gun would drop, not lay on your lap in a cross version. That's kind of strange. That's impossible to do, actually.
Well, I say if he did that, shoot himself and rest his hand in his lap like that, then he's a different human being. He's something from somewhere. Because it's a 9mm. So that have a kick to it.
So unfortunately, we are gonna. You didn't say it, but we're gonna go ahead and say that he succumbed to the injury. Right? We can say that officially. I think we did mention that the suicide concept, so people get that clear. What have you done since that point? And what kind of assistance have you gotten?
We reached out to what's her name? Candice
Norone and
Candice Norone. We sent.
I don't know who that is.
Is that in Brooklyn?
The assistant to the chief.
She was the assistant to the chief
of 1PP.
She
visited the home.
She visited the home, sat in our house and say, Mom, I know it's hard, but it is what it is. Without the investigation, that's what she come here and telling us. It is what it is.
Now, did this take place? Where did this take place? What county is
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn. Kings County. It was on Lenox and Schenectady.
Oh wow!
Oh, that's
January 2nd, around 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
So that's the 6-7 precinct, basically in Brooklyn. Okay. Did you reach out? Let me see, Schenectady and Lenox. Did you reach out to Jumaane Williams' office at all, the public advocate?
We did. I did. But again, at that time there was a lot of voting for. So his people in his office said they would reach out, but nobody came. Nobody reached out to us because a lot was going on at that time with voting and stuff like that.
We reached out to Eric Adam also. He said his people gonna get back in touch with us. They did not.
I sent him a message like 2 weeks ago, and he just read it. Eric Adams.
Okay.
At the beginning, he said, please, he'd like to get some insight on the story. We shared it with him and never heard back from him.
Okay.
We
And so
said,
I noticed that Anthony Beckford, who's
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the only helpful. He was the only one who helped us, who moved forward. He went out to share the video that we had. He shared part of it. And he has been very, very helpful, I must say.
okay. Did you also reach out to Tony Herbert or Kevin?
No.
Okay, or Kevin Parker?
I just sent something for Kevin just recently.
Okay.
We reached out to the DA.
Yes, Eric Gonzalez, and he said it's a suicide, so I can't do anything.
Right. So he's saying basically his office cannot investigate because
Yes.
it is
It's
it
not
has
a
been
homicide,
ruled
it's a suicide.
And so what you're coming on is to say, what is it that you want our audience to know?
We would like to know from what we present to the 67 precinct, why they didn't do any further investigation. Because with the tape we give to them, show the young lady was in the car at the time when the gunshot went off, how long she sat there afterwards in the car. Plus, we have his phone is mirrored to his iPad, and it shows where the young lady is from Arizona. December 24th, she went back home. She was supposed to come back in March. She was back December 31st. We was going by the same cousin because we haven't been by no family bringing in the New Year. So we decide we're going to bring in the New Year by my cousin and Leonard. So we went there the 31st, earliest night. He tell us he going to meet us. He got to go in the airport. We say, for what? He said to pick up his friend. We say, she is back. She's coming back. And he just nod his shoulder. But I'm just saying that to say, when we check his iPad, it shows where she was texting him while she was there, and he was not responding. He tell her it's over. And she said, how long it gonna take me if I don't get a flight to drive from Arizona to New York? He didn't answer. She said, I want to have a baby. I want to marry to you. I want to become a Sphinx. And he still didn't answer. So we tried to show them from this, he was breaking up with her. And, this is another reason why they should be investigating.
Did they ever do an autopsy?
Well, the autopsy, when we spoke to the Emmy, she told us the detectives say suicide and it's suicide.
So they did their own research?
He said that's on the police report.
On the police report.
She doing it, and he was in the car. The police report said he was in the car alone.
With the gun. He and
the gun. But
But I'm sorry, say that again. The police report says what?
That they found him in the car with the gun, and she alone was in the car.
But the guy said you had a video that showed that she was in the car.
Yes. And also that same night, they keep saying that they have a report from myself and Shamika. The only statement, not report, statement. The only statement they have from me is my name. That's the detective. My name, what he was to me. And at that time, I couldn't even remember his date of birth. because I was in
Shocked.
in shock.
You're in shock. You're in shock at the loss of a loved one.
Yeah,
Which makes total sense. So you noticed that on the screen that Risa put up Anthony Herbert, which I could probably more than likely I definitely can connect you with him. Have you got what have you done to try to get? Have you tried anything to get the 6-7 precinct to open up a possible investigation into?
They have his phone.
No, I know that they have his phone, which you want back. But what have you done to say, you know what? Let's get to work. Let's get to reopen this investigation. You're not saying that it's not a suicide, but you are saying that instead of saying that it's just labeling it as suicide, let's confirm that he died by suicide.
Right.
I think that's what you're asking for, some real closure about what happened. Am I hitting the nail on the head or no?
Yes.
Also, when I reached out to the detective, I told him that he needs to go on his phone because there's messages that there's motive. And he said to me,
that's a Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, I had reached out.
January 3rd,
I reached out to the detective and I told him who I was and he said yes. And then he says to me, well, I told him you need to go through his phone. There's motive as to why I feel this individual played a part. And he said to me, that information you have is irrelevant. I already said this is what it is, and I closed the case. And please keep in mind, I only got 3 hours of sleep.
Oh.
Yes, that's really
said I only got 3 hours of sleep.
That is like the worst slap in the face to a family.
Hearing this story, I'm very, very disappointed with what is happening. I'm not saying that it's not suicide. I'm not saying it's homicide. I'm just saying that I feel that it needs to be thorough.
Yes.
And you lost a loved one. You lost somebody as Alex. If you don't mind, Alex, I'm calling you Alex as opposed to Alexandria.
That's what we call
described as fun-loving. Her in essence, she didn't say these words, but she said he was basically, her role model. He was her road dog, and to know that, this young man went out like that without a full understanding. It's what I'm hearing is that it's going to take years of deterioration from oneself, because, how could someone who, and that's why I started off the show that way, right? Your guys interviewed that way. Some person that you have described as the soccer player, fun-loving, international travel, educated, jovial individual, correction officer, somebody who's doing something for themselves,
and loved by all.
Yes.
And this just happened. I'm not saying it can't happen, because I've seen, unfortunately in my line of work, my former line of work, I've seen, unfortunate demise, right? I've seen it, right? So, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And so you're asking the 6-7 precinct to say, listen, let's get some real answers. Let's finalize. You can't just walk in and say that you walked in there and said nobody was in the car when there's clear evidence that somebody was. How the arm was situated, right, suggests that somebody placed his arm that way, right? The gun was touched. How do you mess with evidence by taking out the gun without gloves to take fingerprint? These are the things that you're questioning as a parent, as a family. I'm sure your nephew misses his uncle. Your son misses his uncle. And so, we're very disappointed at the village to hear that. And, again, we're not jumping in a conclusion, but we want to make sure that you're getting some of the answers that you want.
Yeah, well, that's who the command officer from the 67 precinct came here twice, and that's what we keep asking. What's the procedure when something like that happened? Explain to us what's the procedure, how we go about it. And he can't explain. So we even draw an example when it have a fight by a school and somebody get hurt, they pick up everybody who's around the fight. How could someone shoot themselves, someone in the car, and that person did not get taken down for questioning?
Wasn't questioned.
Wasn't questioned. Father know they took her in my cousin tenant kitchen and asked her question, and then let her go.
Somebody dropped the ball.
Yes.
Yes, so that's our main thing. And we asked, and they couldn't explain to us why they did not take her down or dust her for anything. And she came to our house the Sunday and sat in my kitchen and said she went and do her laundries Sunday morning and do her fingernails. Now, this is somebody you claim you love, you want to get married to, who you claim did this, and you could go do your fingernails and do your laundry Sunday morning.
And she went back to the hotel to pick up his belongings and didn't bring it to us when she came that Sunday. She brought it the day after.
That's why she came here. We allowed her to come the Sunday because she was supposed to bring his bag, his belongings from the hotel. All that all that we asked Gabby when he came here. How come they didn't talk to anybody who saw him that day? The barber. We told them about the barber. The barber knew him for 15 years. The barber said he was the same way. The hotel he was in, they went to a restaurant and eat. How come he didn't go there to see his behavior, find out how he was behaving? Now, he live at home.
Yeah.
We see him every day, and nothing was wrong. He have a TV in his bedroom. He plays his video game. Instead of he stay in the bedroom and play the video game, he come downstairs and play video game on the TV in the living room, so he will not miss out on anything going on, any conversation going on with the family.
True
So
West
this
Indian
is- right. So this is my thing. Give me a reason, show me somehow, ask his friend, talk to people where he was disturbed to do something like this. The only thing they keep saying, he was drinking.
You want the same investigation as they gave the young lady that recently they were searching, or any other individual that's on the news. So that's what you want. And that's what you deserve. That if an investigation is done on someone's death or demise, you want to make sure that everything and every precautionary measures were taken in getting the results and the conclusion so that you can be at peace. Unfortunately, that's not what transpired. And we regret, we're really sorry that you went through this. It's like going through double death twice. So we truly, truly sympathize with you on behalf of the village family. And we pray that someone can help you get to the point where you get closure and get the results that you want.
Yeah, all of you guys, after the show, you guys can reach out and maybe there's somebody who we can connect you with to further that conversation around what has happened, right? I trust me, I totally understand the need for closure. I get it. I think one of her audience, there are a couple of comments from the audience, one that says it was despicable about what happened, and she wrote that this one is questionable about what is happening. So people are out there who are angry for you, and I know that I think what Tay says is true, that this was mishandled on so many levels and the family needs closure. And I think that's important. So, again, definitely reach out, and then we'll see outside of this conversation what can be done, if there's anything that can be done at this point, to pressure into questioning and looking at revisiting evidence, because it's not too late, right? It's not too late to get a better understanding of that.
Yeah.
And you're also advocating that everyone deserves
Yes.
the respect and everyone deserves equity when it comes to death or
Yeah.
murder or anything, that no matter what color, what race, what nationality, what religion, you deserve the same detail, the same push as anyone else. So that I understand wholeheartedly that a plan or anything should not determine, especially being the fact that he is one that represent and save lives and protect
Yes,
lives.
that's what we think. As a peace officer, I thought as a peace officer, part of that law enforcement, he would get a little more respect. Not saying everybody should get respect, but he's part of that peace officer. They showed him no respect. It's like, I now understand the term, when they say Black Lives Matter, because it shows him no respect. I used to figure some people, take it a little too far, but now I see where a lot of people that be coming from. And something like this, he kept me grounded. As they say, the student become the teacher. That's what I miss right now. He kept me grounded as he got older. He used to take charge and keep me from getting a little angry and stuff like that. And now it's like I lose a friend, a brother. He became my friend and my brother. He wasn't a son to me anymore. Up to last night, I waked up 2:30, just crying. And up to now, I can go back to sleep.
Yeah, you're gonna grieve for a while because you're grieving the loss of your child. You're grieving how this was handled, and you're grieving just overall. You expected better. So we really, really are sorry that you went through so many different levels of hurt. And, we don't wish that on anyone, but we pray that God will actually give you the results, the closure. We can't bring him back, but he will give you the peace that you need in this time. And we're here to support. We're here to encourage and pray with you and send whatever support we can or connect you with whoever can get an answer to this. So we thank you as a family. Thank you for sharing his story with us, and let his legacy and his story continue to shine and move forward in regards to that, and teach people that you could be young, 14, and tearing the world with soccer. So thank you for allowing your child to be an inspiration to all of us.
Okay, and like I said, we at the village will do our best to help you, and to call out, connect you with some of those names that I mentioned earlier.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, family, and all.
God bless you guys.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. Sophia writes that just deepest sympathy to you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
That's an extremely
difficult
situation for a family to not have closure. Not that he didn't die by suicide, but was it really suicide? And I just want to know.
Especially when you have to do your own investigation too.
Yeah,
that's the sad part about it.
You expect the police to do that.
Burying the child, and then you also have to look for details to put everything together.
Yeah. I know that we had another guest, and unfortunately, she only has a couple of minutes. Olivia. Olivia is on. She wrote a book and she wanted to talk about the book a little bit. I don't know, Olivia, if you want to, you're on the air, so you can let us know if you want to talk about it today or maybe next week. So let us know. Olivia?
Yeah, we could definitely reschedule it for next week.
Absolutely. We want to hear about your book, Olivia.
Oh,
so next week, bring it on, baby. Bring it on.
How are you doing, Olivia?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Roger?
All right. So I guess so. Next week, what we'll do, Andrea, do we have time to schedule in for next week? All right, so let's do that. And we'll try to make sure that happens. I think we have a couple of guests for next week. So next week, what we do is have her probably come on early. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I actually had a Zoom call and it just ended. So, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So we're talking to, what's the name of your book, Olivia?
It's called The Fortunate Fall.
The Fortunate.
The Fortunate Fall.
F-A-L-L. The Fortunate Fall. F-A-L-L.
F-A-L-L. Yeah.
Okay.
And I also want to talk about my animation Alicita, which won Best Children's Film at the DC Black Film Festival.
All right.
All right. Excellent. Congratulations. So we'll so on next week Thursday we'll try to get you on for that. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You know, Joanne, Dr. Bryant, you know, today's show was very, very interesting and informative and you know, to talk about racial injustice and social justice for everyone. And you know, it's just a sad situation for
our correction officers, for our inmate, for people in the street, those who dedicate their life. So, you know, you matter.
Yeah.
Your quality of life matter. You know, the respect that you receive matter. It doesn't matter if you are actually serving time, if you're in the hospital, whatever, you deserve the respect no matter what, because you're a human being and you're a creation of God. So you matter and you're important.
Yeah. Just want to say happy birthday to my uncle James. He turned 82 on Saturday past. And my cousin Paula, she turned a young lady finally. I'm joking. So happy birthday to her as well. I had a really good time at their birthday party during this week. Ladies and gentlemen, last words before I close up, Dr. Bryant.
Tomorrow is the beginning of October. And I can't believe how fast we're coming to the end of this year. Take the time, enjoy, celebrate life, appreciate the fact that you have your health, you're okay, and thank God for every moment. And people, enjoy life.
Yes, get vaccinated, keep your job, federal mandate, city mandate. You know, with that being said, I just want to say there are a lot of things going on in the world. A lot of things going on in the world. A lot of evils out there, a lot of positives out there. You know,
that's why you need joy.
You're right. Please don't be part of the evil. Be part of the joy. God bless each and every one of you. You've been watching, listening, hearing, viewing The Village right here on 92.1 FM, on GD Radio, on YouTube, on TuneIn Radio. My name is Roderick Daly. I am your host with our co-hostess, Dr. Doran Bryant, and our co-host John Sampson, our executive producer, Andrea Doman, and our producer, Sophia Willisey. We are dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education, helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, at any point, starting from today. Know that success is not just spoken, it is done. We will see you next time right here on the Village Talk Show. God bless and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Carol.